Hey guys, what is going on? Like man 123 are back with another video, and welcome back to another top 10 video, where today in this episode, I'll be counting down my top 10 saddest The Legend of Korra moments. So without further ado, let's get into it. At number 10, we have Lin loses her bending, and this happens in an episode in Season 1, while Tenzin, Pema, their children, are trying to escape from Air Temple Island because, Amon and, the Eagles have, pretty much taken over Republic City and Air Temple Island, and Lin is actually trying to get them to safety while flying away on, I believe, Oogie or something like that, and, there's airships behind them with Amon, and then, I believe, Asami's dad, and then a couple of the other equalists, and the only way for Tenzin, Pema, and their children to actually get away is if Lin actually sacrificed herself. So she, jumps off Oogie and, goes over to the airships, and then, begins metal bending them to actually destroy them. And then, I believe in, the last few minutes of that episode, Amon actually does take away her bending. It was definitely really sad to actually see that, because she did sacrifice her sort of, elemental power to actually help Tenzin, Pema, and then their children. So it was definitely sad to actually see that, and then just the reaction, Pema, Tenzin, and the children actually gave to her as she was, sort of jumping off Oogie, and then it was sad to definitely see her powers be taken away. At number 9, we have the scarf, and this happened in an episode in Season 3, while Team Avatar are in Ba Sing Se, and Marco and Bolin actually get lost there, because it is a pretty huge sort of place to actually be at, and they actually get reunited with their, long-lost family, and it was definitely really cool to actually see that, and to make it even sort of, not sadder, but it was definitely sad to actually see that their grandma was, really excited and happy to actually see them, but then, they go into a small room, and she actually reveals a photo of them as, young children with their father and their mother, and then a letter she actually did receive. And to see Marco actually give up the scarf to his grandmother was definitely really sad to actually see that, because he's had this scarf for definitely a really long time, and it's the one thing he has to remember his father and his parents. So it was definitely really sad to actually see he gave up the scarf, but I thought it was definitely really kind he actually did give it to his grandmother. At number 8, we have Tarlok and Noatak, and this happened in, the final scene of Season 1 of The Legend of Korra, and this happened when Tarlok and Noatak are actually, sort of going away on, a small sort of a speedboat, and as they, travel into the distance, it was definitely really sad to actually see that, but really nice to actually see that the brothers who were being, sort of disconnected from one another for definitely a really long time, just how sort of connected they were once again. So it's definitely really nice to see that. But then Tarlok actually makes a really big sort of sacrifice and decision to actually kill the both of them. I thought it was definitely really sad to actually see that, but I thought it was definitely a good decision he did make, because Noatak has definitely made a lot of really bad decisions, and after almost some sort of recovery he made because he didn't want to do anything bad again, I kind of feel like Tarlok didn't actually sort of have that feeling, he definitely knew Noatak was gonna repeat his mistakes again. So it's definitely sad to actually see, he put one of those sort of things on the Eagles have, and he shot it into the engine or the fuel part for the speedboat, and then it explodes. So it's definitely sad to actually see that. At number 7, we have Marco's sacrifice, and this happened in, I believe, the final episode of Season 4, because Korra, Bolin, Marco, Lin, and Sue actually found a way inside of the giant mecha, so they actually, sort of split off in teams. I thought it was definitely really cool how they did that, and Marco and Bolin actually went to, the sort of core and, the spirit part of the giant mecha, and then, they have this sort of conversation where they can actually disable it by, turning off 2 levers, but then that actually doesn't work, and then Bolin actually explains that if you have, enough energy and sort of power to the spirit core, it actually does explode. So then, Marco actually does get an idea to actually use his lightning to actually sort of destroy the core. So it was definitely really sad to see the conversation they actually did have, because, Bolin was explaining, I know you're already awesome and all that, and then like they were talking about being brothers. So it was definitely really sad to actually see that. But then like as Bolin has like two of the guards on his shoulders, like he goes down the stairs and then like Marco actually does begin to like conjure up lightning. It's definitely really sad with like the music, and as he begins to shoot at it, like a bunch of sparks happen and all that. And then as he holds like that sort of position for a while, it sort of explodes on him, and like his arm, it doesn't like get exploded, like his arm is just like sort of burnt and all that. So it's definitely sad to actually see that, but definitely a really brave decision for Mark to actually sacrifice himself for definitely a lot of people, because that is definitely something I believe like not a lot of people would actually do, like Marco would actually do. Like he would definitely sacrifice himself to actually save others. So I'm really glad he actually did do this decision, and I'm really glad he actually did survive from it, because if he didn't, it would just made it really more sadder. At number 6, we have Hiroshi Sato sacrifices himself. And this happened in the season finale, or like final episode of The Legend of Korra in season 4. It was definitely really sad to actually see this, because like they had to have these hummingbird things to actually cut holes into the giant mecha, because you couldn't metal bend it or like earth bend it, because Team Avatar alongside Lin and Sue with her children were actually trying to sort of distract the mecha, while I believe Varric, Julie, and then Hiroshi and then Asami were actually trying to cut holes into it so then they could actually get inside. And then this really sad moment actually happened when Hiroshi and Asami were actually cutting a hole in it, but then they were like really close to finishing it. But then Korra actually does see it, and like she begins to like close on to them in like the hummingbird suit, and as he's about to finish the hole, he actually does shoot out with like clicking, I believe, like a red button or a green one. He actually shoots out Asami, and like as she begins to sort of like get shot out of like the hummingbird, like it then does crush the sort of hummingbird suit, and it was definitely sad to actually see her father be like crushed by Korra, because she did have, he did have some sort of like redemption arc, because in the first season he was definitely a bad sort of guy because he was actually helping the bad guys, but then like in season 4 he actually does help Team Avatar and all that. So it's not as good as Zuko's redemption arc, but it's definitely a interesting redemption arc, because like it is Asami's father, to actually see him sacrifice himself after he was like a bad guy and all that was definitely sad to actually see that. At number 5, we have the death of Wan, and this happened in, I believe, Season 2, Episode 12, titled The Beginnings Part 2. But before all that actually did happen, in Part 1 and a bit of Part 2, we actually learn the story of the first Avatar, how he actually didn't start out as a person who had elemental power. He was just like someone on the street trying to sort of help others and like sort of help different people and all that type of stuff. It was definitely really interesting to learn about that. And then I also really liked the story it did tell. I'm really glad it didn't just have it in like one episode, because I feel like if they were to do that, it would definitely be like really rushed and all that. So I'm really glad they actually put it into 2 parts to actually explain like a whole story. Definitely really cool. And then just like the whole idea of it was definitely great as well. After accidentally letting go the 2 spirits, Vatu and Rava, the light and dark spirit, he actually sets on a path to actually set things right and actually stop Vatu from like destroying the world and like have it in chaos and like darkness. And on harmonic conversions, after like having all the elements and training with them, he actually tries to defeat Vatu and actually trap him in like the time of like the Tree of Time, but then things don't go very well, because like Vatu is like a very sort of bad spirit. He is definitely really powerful, and the only way to actually defeat him, well, Vatu, is to actually combine powers with Rava, the light spirit, and like they touch like one of the, I believe it's like the southern like part of like the portal, like they touch it, and then Wan and Rava actually combine, and that's how the first Avatar is created. And then this sets on like an idea of that one actually wants to help other people, like not be reunited, but like sort of help people not like start wars and all that, and like have the world in chaos. But then the sad part is that on like a battlefield, we have one at like maybe like age maybe 60 or something, but like he's a pretty old man, and like he is still the Avatar, but like he's pretty weak, and then like he says there wasn't enough time because like darkness will always thrive over good. It's like sort of like the balance between it. So it was definitely sad to actually hear that, because like he tried so hard to actually have something what's like really far away to actually achieve, because you can never like truly destroy evil. So definitely sad to know about that. But then Rava says something really nice. I believe it's like something along the lines of "will always be together forever," something along the lines of that. I thought that was definitely a really nice message. And then the Avatar cycle did continue, so that was definitely really great, but really sad to actually see one's death. And number 4, we have Korra defeated, and this happened in like the final battle between Zahir and Korra in season 3, and I believe it was the final episode. This was definitely really sad to actually see this, because Korra was poisoned with, I believe, mercury into her body, so it did trigger the Avatar state to actually sort of help her in a way to actually cope with it. And like she does a battle with Zahir, and like she's trying to fight him and the poison. It's just really sad to actually see that happen to her, but she does do a pretty good battle between Zahir. Like a lot of stuff does happen between that battle, and in the final moments of the battle, like there's this sort of air sort of tornado created from the airbenders with help from Junora. It was definitely really interesting to see that, because Zahir is trying to actually fly away with Korra, but like he's getting slowly sucked down into like the sort of part of the tornado. So definitely really interesting to see that. And then he does let go of Korra, and like Korra, as she's falling, like sort of almost like grabs him by the leg with the chain. Definitely really cool. And then like flings him to the ground, and like he's in a lot of pain because he did hit the ground pretty hard on his back. And then Korra does like make this sort of massive ditch in the ground, so that was pretty sad to see that. But then like it just shows Korra is defeated, because like she's got mercury in her body and she's like slowly dying. And then to make things even sadder, like Zahir is like laughing and saying like something along the lines of like the Avatar cycle is like over because like Korra's about to die. So it was definitely sad to actually see that Korra had finally been defeated, because in season 1 she did win against Amon, and then in season 2 she actually did defeat Unalaq. But then in season 3 it's just showing like a lot of stuff has happened to Korra throughout the past 2 seasons, and then also in this season. And then it's just really sad to actually see like everyone around her who like she has a really good sort of connection with, like her friends and family, just seeing her like slowly being sort of not killed, but like slowly being poisoned, and then also being like harmed by Zahir. It was definitely really sad to actually see this defeat being done by Korra from like the poison and like the sort of injury she has like received in sort of different seasons. And number 3, we have Korra's recovery. This is definitely a really sad moment, because it has like the events from an episode called Korra Alone, like how she struggled to actually cope with the problems she did have from like the poison, because she had like not visions but like hallucinations of her avatar state being like evil and all that. She had like sort of dreams and all that about like I believe the battle between Zahir and all that. So it was definitely really sad to actually see that, and how she coped with it was definitely sad, because like she did become somebody else, because like she wanted to change her identity. So like she cut her hair and all that. She became someone no one actually knew, because no one did know where the Avatar had gone, because everyone thought she was coming back to Republic City after I believe like 3 months, but then she actually didn't go back to Republic City. She actually went to like some other sort of place in the world of the Legend of Korra and Avatar to actually sort of get better and like sort of train herself up again. So it was definitely really sad how she actually did cope with this, because like she had to go to Katara to actually begin like walking again, because like the poison had sort of like not destroyed, but like sort of paralyzed her like muscles and all that, so she had to recover from all those sort of injuries. It was definitely really sad to actually see this whole sort of recovery, because it didn't actually affect her mentally. It did affect her both mentally and physically, so it was definitely really sad to actually see that, and such a really sort of mature sort of subject to actually sort of see in such a sort of not kid show, but it was definitely really sort of mature to actually see that. But I'm really glad they actually had something this sort of mature in a children's show, because it was definitely really interesting to see how she actually did cope with this. What I found interesting was that I really liked how Korra actually sort of took experience from the event she actually did have and the battle with Zahir. I like how it didn't just like go sort of over her and like she recovered like straight away. She really did struggle trying to cope with everything what did happen, and I'm really glad they actually spent time on this, like a full episode explaining like her recovery and all that. I'm really glad it just wasn't like a quick thing and like she recovered straight away because she was the Avatar. And what I really liked was that, well, it's not something I really liked. I thought it was definitely really interesting how Korra thought that like there's no need for the Avatar because like she can't really do much because like she's recovering from like the poison and all that. So she felt like she didn't need to be needed anymore because like she wasn't the Avatar she was in like the previous seasons, because this thing was like the thing what affected her definitely the most. Like whatever happened in season 1 really didn't affect her, and then in season 2 that definitely did affect her because she did actually lose the Avatar sort of inside of her, like she did lose Rava. But then in season 3 this definitely did affect her the most, because like there was a whole sort of episode dedicated on her. She had like hallucinations, so I'm really glad. And also it's definitely really sad to actually see this happen to the Avatar, and something definitely really serious as well. And number 2, we have the Avatar is no more, and this happened in the final parts of, I believe, the battle between Unalaq and Korra. And like Unalaq has like this sort of part where he's like sort of conjoined with Korra, and like this some sort of like water bending part, and like Vatu like somehow comes out of his mouth and like then goes into Korra and like rips out Rava. So it's definitely really sad to actually see that, because I believe that Vatu had like completely controlled Unalaq, because like Unalaq had sort of no control anymore. So it's definitely interesting to actually see that happen. And then to make it even sadder, Unalaq does begin to actually destroy the light spirit Rava, so it's definitely really sad to see that. But to make it even sadder, as he's destroying it, and like as sort of particles are going everywhere, parts of the Avatar cycle begin to like disappear and fade, and like we see Korra struggling to like cope with this, because like her sort of past lives are disappearing and like she's sort of fading herself. So definitely really sad to like see that. Like Aang disappears, and then Roku, Kyoshi, and then I believe another Avatar. So definitely really sad to see that. But then like the final Avatar to disappear was one who was the first Avatar. So it was definitely sad to see that. And then like as Rava does get destroyed and like sort of disappear, Korra does like fall to the ground and like I believe like get like knocked out or something. So it's definitely really sad to actually see the Avatar cycle like be no more, because like without Rava like there could be no more Avatar cycle, because like she was the person who actually did the Avatar cycle and like went on to like another person. So then that would make Korra the last Avatar, which was definitely really sad to actually know that. And number 1, we have Korra dies, and this happened in the same part as Korra's defeat, because like as she becomes defeated, she begins to like slowly die after the poison like basically takes over her whole body, and like she has no other choice except to die. It was definitely really sad to actually think that, seeing like Avatar Korra actually die in front of everyone she like loves and all that, like her father, Tenzin, his children, like Lin and Sue. So it's definitely, and like the Airbender. So it was definitely really sad to actually see that moment, and like the music was sad. So it was definitely really sad to see that. And like as she like sort of died, she only did die for like a split second because then like Sue sort of metal bended the poison out of her. So apart from that, it was definitely sad to actually see her die from such a dangerous and pretty sort of scary thing. Like mercury killing you is definitely something really serious and pretty sort of scary at the same time. So hope you guys did enjoy this tier bending top 10 video, because I really did enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions on my top 10 saddest The Legend of Korra moments. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And if you have your own saddest The Legend of Korra moments, I would definitely love to hear it. So as always guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I can see you soon. Goodbye!